Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to dive into this hidden world where geopolitics, technology, and, well, your garbage can all collide. It's a wild story. Let's get right into it.
So it all starts, as so many things do, with a border. You know, that line that separates two nations, with a constant flow of stuff moving back and forth.
But we're not talking about cars here, or lumber, or even dairy products. This is something else entirely. Every single year, a truly staggering amount of one very specific thing crosses this border. We're talking 3.44 million tons.
Yup, trash. A literal river of refuse flowing from Canada right into the United States. So, the big question is, what happens when a trade war turns that river of garbage into a geopolitical weapon? Well, the whole system breaks, and you have to build something new, something completely different in its place.
All right, first, let's get our heads around the way things used to be. For decades, there was this massive, surprisingly efficient trade in trash flowing between Ontario, Canada, and its neighbor, Michigan.
And the economics of this are just wild. It was all driven by something the sources call the Michigan lure. So get this, Michigan's landfill fee, they call it a tipping fee, was an incredible 36 cents per ton, just 36 cents. Now compare that to Ohio at nearly $5, or Ontario where you're looking at $100 or more. The price difference was so huge, it was actually cheaper for Toronto to truck its garbage 5 hours across an international border than to just deal with it locally. That's why about 27% of all of Ontario's municipal waste ended up in Michigan.
And this wasn't some shady, under-the-table deal. This system was protected by law. The U.S. Constitution's Commerce Clause. It basically prevents individual states from just banning foreign trade. So Michigan couldn't just put up a sign saying, "No more Canadian trash." The border was, legally speaking, forced to stay open to this flow. It was this finely tuned but totally fragile machine.
And then, just like that, the machine broke. Geopolitical tensions started flaring up, and leaders began looking for, new kinds of weapons to use in a trade war. And as one source puts it so perfectly, the weapon of choice became garbage. The U.S. administration, using its emergency economic powers, decided to turn this everyday liability into a powerful political tool. And here's exactly how they pulled it off. They went into the harmonized tariff schedule, this huge, complicated rulebook for all global trade, and they slapped a 35% tariff, not on a specific company, but on a code, HS 3825.10. That's the official customs code for municipal solid waste. And just like that, household trash stopped being a service and became a taxable good.
But wait, it got even crazier. This created what's called the transshipment trap. So, trade lawyers argued that Canadian trash should be exempt under the big USMCA trade deal because it was wholly obtained in Canada. Makes sense, right? But what's really in our trash? A broken toy made in China? An old phone made in South Korea? U.S. Customs started arguing that these truckloads weren't wholly obtained at all, that they contained foreign goods being illegally transshipped, and that triggered a crippling 40% penalty. Suddenly, every single garbage truck crossing the border was playing a high-stakes game of audit roulette. So, this massive crisis created the perfect opening for a totally new idea. A company called 905 Wood looked at this mess and realized the old way of just hauling and dumping was dead. The future wasn't just about moving trash, it was about refining it.
But what was 905 Wood really? You had skeptics who saw them as just another logistics company, with a slick website just playing the price differences. But proponents saw something else. They argued 905 Wood was building a true tech stack, a digital refinery, using their profits to actually fund real innovation. And this slide really nails who they were building for. Their users weren't old school guys with clipboards. No, they were building for a new generation of supply chain managers. Millennials, Gen Z, people who grew up online and just expect to be able to track a multi-ton load of construction debris with the same ease they track an Amazon package to their door. Now, to serve those users, and more importantly, survive this trade war, they couldn't just build some normal everyday app. They had to design for the most hostile environments you can possibly imagine. Right. Forget about a nice, clean office. I want you to picture the user, a contractor standing in 6 inches of freezing mud
wearing these heavy, thick gloves with the sun glaring right off their phone screen. Tapping a tiny little button is just not going to happen. The whole interface has to be aggressive, super simple, and absolutely mistake-proof. Which brings us to something they created called the shatter effect. This is an amazing piece of what designers call hostile UX, a user experience built for total chaos. If the app's AI detects a major compliance risk, it doesn't just show a polite little pop-up. Nope. The entire screen visually shatters with this loud, jarring sound. It's designed to cut right through the noise of a demolition site. It's this violent animation that's basically screaming, "Stop, you're about to make a very, very expensive mistake." They also totally rethought the money side of things. Instead of one single, confusing flat fee for a dumpster, they introduced decoupled billing. The invoice clearly separates the two main costs, the fixed cost of the truck and the variable cost of the landfill fee, which depends on weight. So why does that matter? It makes the economics totally transparent. If you sort your waste better and make the load lighter, you literally see the savings on your bill. It's a direct financial reward for doing the right thing.
And get this, to declare that a load is clean and compliant, you can't just tap a submit button. You have to physically press and hold a button on the screen. And as you hold it, the phone's little vibration motor ramps up, so you can actually feel the weight of your legal declaration. It's brilliant. It forces you to pause for a second, turning a simple digital click into this physical act of sealing a legal document.
So what's the end result of all of this? Well, it's a complete paradigm shift. The goal isn't just to make waste disappear anymore. The goal is to turn a liability into an asset. It's this fascinating peek into the bigger shift towards a real circular economy. This digital refinery isn't just about being more efficient. It's a digital shield. Think about it. In a trade war where any truck could get hit with a 40% penalty, this system creates a bulletproof, completely audible data trail. It proves, with cryptographic certainty, that a load of waste is clean, compliant, and actually valuable.
So let's just recap this incredible transformation. You start with chaotic, messy waste, and you refine it into a clean, traceable commodity. Opaque pricing becomes totally transparent and actually incentivizes good behavior. Human error gets minimized by this aggressive, hostile UX design. A physical liability that was getting hammered by tariffs becomes a verified digital asset. And, maybe the most important part, compliance stops being a cost, and it actually becomes a way to make money.
Which leaves us with one final big question. This whole thing started because of a trade fight over something with negative value, but technology came in and created a solution that turned it into a positive. So if geopolitics and code can refine literal trash into a verifiable asset, what other kinds of waste in our economy are just sitting there, waiting for their own digital refinery?